Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. We've got a new patch that just dropped yesterday night. I heard of some of the changes, but very little, so this is basically my first impressions. I'm going to go through the patch notes and give you guys my initial thoughts on the changes and kind of give you guys some suggestions on what you should play with this new meta that we're getting into. I don't think it's the craziest patch ever, but anyway, let's just hop in. And it's mostly just balance changes, by the way. It's a purely balance change patch. From what I've heard, they're trying to tackle the new DLC civs, trying to balance them into the game because that, makes sense. 5 new civs on release. There's bound to be some issues, and there were some issues with KHITANS being a bit too strong and civs like Wu also being a bit too strong. So let's see what the changes are. Go through them one by one. So balance changes here. So in general, Fire Lancer attack increased from 8 to 9. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a bit better. There we go. That's a decent change, actually. Let me see the rest of it. So Elite and regular Fire Lancer cost reduced from 40 wood, 50 gold to 40 wood, 45 gold. I completely disagree with this change, actually. So my take on the Fire Lancer is that it's a very good unit in early Castle Age. So like the cheesy fast castle Fire Lancer rushes are quite legit. Especially when you combine it with the rocket carts and like the bonuses stacking there. So I think making it cheaper is actually going to make those strategies way better. So I disagree with that. Also, the unit was very spammable in Imp. So making it cheaper is going to make it even more spammable in Imp. Especially when you take out that gold cost, right? Because that was the limiting factor. So this is a huge buff, even though it's just 5 gold. I think that does matter quite a bit. And then they're going to give the Fire Lancer an extra attack from 8 to 9. That doesn't matter that much because the main strength of the Fire Lancer comes from its like gunpowder attack. But fair enough, still a pretty reasonable buff, especially since it got double buff. That's pretty dangerous. So Fire Lancer for me might actually be very dangerous after this patch. I'm not sure if I can say that it's going to be meta, but I think it will see a lot more play. That's for sure. Jerchins, next up. Okay, we got a lot of changes. Let's take a look. So that was the only general change, by the way. Next are all Civ specific changes. So Jerchins. Grenadier, HP increased from 35 to 40. I agree with that. Cost reduced from 35 food, 70 gold to 35 food, 65 gold. So they knocked 5 gold on this unit. And then its attack was increased from 11 to 12. This is a triple buff. Holy moly. Okay, just general, like, Age of Empires 2 things, and even just, like, video game specific things. I personally never like to triple buff or to double buff units. That's why, like, this double buff on the Fire Lancer, that could be like pretty significant. This is now a triple buff to the Grenadier. That can make the unit go from like pretty bad to insane. But let's break it down and try to see where exactly this unit will stand. So HP from 35 to 40, this I agree with. 35 HP is way too squishy for a backline unit, especially in a pure lich. So I think this is definitely a good change. Cost reduced, I think this is also a good change. It's only 5 gold. And it doesn't matter as much as the Fire Lancer because this unit is not very good with like a fast castle strategy. It's okay, it's decent, but it's still significantly more expensive than like the fast castle units usually are because it costs a little bit of food, okay? And then the attack increase from 11 to 12. All of these three could be very significant together, but not any one of them feels that good or that like insane. Sorry, there's so much noise around me. There's like the cat meowing, there's like a helicopter outside my door. I don't know what's going on. Just gonna wait for that to pass, honestly, so I can focus. All right. My goodness, it's like a helicopter with like a horse and chariot riding it. Like, what even is that noise? Okay, bro. Okay. Next up. So yeah, basically thoughts here. I think the Grenadier will actually be quite a solid unit after these changes because it already felt decent and it was fun to use beforehand. With these changes, it's gonna be a lot better. Also, notice all of these changes apply in Castle Age. So Castle Age Grenadier got a huge buff in my opinion. Next up, Iron Pagoda. Sorry. Ability recharge reduced from 60 seconds to 40 seconds and Elite from 50 to 30. Good. That's fine. Basically, the ability blocks 1 melee attack. Kind of like the Shirvamsha shield that blocks 5 range attacks. This blocks 1 melee attack. And having a faster recharge makes sense. Upgrade cost reduced from 950 food and 750 gold to 950 food and 550 gold. Probably good. Yeah, this is quite a good change for the Iron Pagoda, but I don't think it's going to be meta after this. I think Jerchins, their best units are the Step Lancer that attacks faster, and then maybe the Grenadier after this change. I don't think the Pagoda would be that good, but it's still a reasonable option to go into in some cases. All right, next up we got KHITANS. We got a whole ass developer note here, so let's take a look. So shepherds and herders generate plus 10% additional food civilization bonus removed. Okay, interesting. Herder walking distance on pastures increased. Okay, and herder gather rate adjusted, so the overall income is reduced from plus 12% to plus 7% compared to generic unupgraded farmers. Okay, let's break this down. So let's look at the facts first. KHITANS were way too overpowered on this patch. Like, they were banned in every tournament. When they were picked, both players picked them. It was a mirror match. And KHITANS always won if it was KHITANS or something else. I don't think I've seen them lose a single game. They dominated the rank ladder at all elos. I lost to like a 2K4 player I've never heard of. Like, I got stomped by his KHITANS. I lost to Margugu, and he was playing KHITANS. I've never lost to Margugu in my life. And I lost when he had KHITANS. So, both from like personal experience, tournament experience, and then like hearing from others, pretty much everyone had the consensus that KHITANS were pretty broken. But the brokenness came from them having way too much food compared to like other civilizations. It didn't come from KHITANS having the craziest units, even though I think that their units are quite strong in castlage. It's a very heavy snowball civ. So the devs tackled their food generation only. What this means is you still have strong scouts in feudal, you still have strong step lancers, and you still have heavy CA in castlage. Their units were untouched, only their economy was hit. But this is a pretty significant nerf. I think that KHITANS go from like S plus tier to probably something like C tier, is my prediction. Because take a look at this. This means that they have no Dark Age bonus anymore. So they don't get a faster uptime at all. Alright, so no initiative compared to any civ. Then their gather rate on the farms going from 12% to 7% means that they only have a small advantage of 7% over unupgraded farmers. They no longer have that strong 12%. So I think it's still like solid. The farms will still feel really good. But losing the initial bonus and getting your feudal nerfed, for me, feels like KHITANS will fail to snowball like they usually do. And they're going to fail to get ahead in early to mid game. And so their mid game will be very easy to deal with, or a lot easier to deal with, let's say. And then KHITANS late game is nothing that special. So for me, I personally think that the KHITANS will not be that good on this patch. I could be wrong on this. I see some comments in the chat, people saying it's going to go from S++ tier to S tier. It's still going to be a good civ. I mean, personally, I don't think it's going to be a good civ after this. Losing its Dark Age bonus is absolutely huge. Let's take a look at the developer note. So the Khitan food economy provided too much early tempo by receiving 64 food extra from sheep in Dark Age, followed by exceptionally efficient pastures. These changes will adjust the overall food income to be in line with other food bonuses in the game, while maintaining the unique strengths and feel of the pasture economy. Again, that 64 food, it sounds like it's very little, but in my opinion, that's what let them up one pop faster. So they were able to go something like 18 pop with Loom, and that's like the fastest uptime in the game for like a generic civ. And they'd have a really good economy doing that. But now they're not going to be able to do that very efficiently, and they're going to suffer pretty heavily because they have a generic Dark Age, unless they make pastures in Dark Age, which is probably too expensive. So for me personally, I think it's going to feel a bit like Poles, where they have like good farms, but they are like really slow to get going, and they're not going to hit the same power spike. But unlike Poles, they don't have a good late game. So again, I predict them to be like a C tier civ that could shine in the right circumstances, but will not be good. I could be wrong on this though. It could still be S tier or A tier, but I personally think that they're going to be in the gutter. Let's go to the shoe. So the shoe, honestly, the civ, I thought it was horrible on release, but it turned out to be actually pretty good. I judged it too fast. But let's take a look at the changes here. The War Chariot was probably the worst unit in the game, according to many people. And it got some buffs. So speed increased from 0.8 to 0.9, and the reload time reduced from 8 to 6.5. Again, it's a double buff, 2 minor buffs. I don't know. I have no thoughts on this. I think it's probably needed. I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't know if it's going to be a good unit, but I guess, yeah, I guess it's going to be a little bit more playable now. I like that it got a speed increase. It felt way too slow when I played with it. Fair enough. We'll see how that plays out. That needs testing for sure. And Way, it looks like they got quite a bit of changes. So gain access to gold shaft mining. That's good. That means that they can actually get that tech, but then when they get that tech, they get 1 extra villager. So that's actually quite good. I'm happy to see that. That way they can get 8 villagers extra, instead of 7 villagers extra when they get all their economy technologies, which I think is very good. Xianbei Raider, which is the unique CA unit. This is also one of the worst units in the game. Attack increase from 4 to 5. Makes sense. 4 attack is way too weak. Okay. Charge attack now also shoots the main projectile with 5 damage, in addition to the existing 5 projectiles with 1 damage each. Charge attack now properly affected by Parthian tactics. So this needs testing. I'm not sure how the charge attack will feel, but if it still follows that parabola trajectory, I think it's still going to be kind of buns. But if this unit actually feels decent after these changes, then the unit could actually be pretty solid. But keep in mind, a Cav Archer regular has 6 attack. So it being at 5 is already weaker than a CA. But I think the biggest strength of this unit is the fact that it doesn't cost a lot of gold. So if this unit can perform decently, it's actually like a cheap Cav Archer in the sense that it doesn't cost a lot of gold, allowing you to spam it freely from like Castle Age all the way to like post-imp, and you're still going to have a lot of gold for other stuff, which I think is huge. So I think the best strength of this unit is the fact that it doesn't cost a lot of gold, and if it can perform decently or like almost as good as a Cav Archer, it's going to be a good unit now. All right, so this unit got a huge buff, so don't go quoting me calling it the worst unit in the game in like 2-3 months when this unit performs, because it got a buff. Like, I need people to be my witness. I called it bad before the buffs. Now it might be decent. And then the last thing is the Tanshin, which is the unique tech in Castle Age. So the food generation per soldier increased from 1.2 food per minute to 1.8 food per minute. And the cost adjusted from 250 food and 300 gold to 250 food and 300 wood. I want to talk about this tech for a little bit here. This tech kind of sucks in general for like majority of the game. However, there is one thing that this tech does that's very unique in Age of Empires. This tech provides infinite food or infinite resource. So imagine a situation where all the resources are out on the map. There's only like 2 or 3 civs that can actually generate infinite resources. Actually, maybe just Portuguese. And now we have the way as well. So in very niche situations, you can actually generate infinite res with Tanshin when there's no other resources on the map. All the wood's gone. Super late game, like 3-4 hour late game. This tech can actually save you, give you a lot of food regeneration or food income from your soldiers, and you can sell that at the market to get all the resources. So technically, this this tech could provide you that infinite res that you need to win those hyper late games. But in general, I think it's kind of bad, even with the changes. They made it cost only wood instead of gold, which is a bit better, but I think it's probably still going to be pretty bad for the most part. Yeah, by soldier, they mean any military. And that's pretty much it. So as always, they're investigating and whatnot. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the patch. So overall, pretty decent patch. I'm happy with all the changes, I'd say. A bit worried about the Fire Lancers. They might be a bit overtuned now, and KHITANS might be like pretty weak. But other than that, I think it's a really nice patch. And it was definitely one that was heavily needed. So thank you so much for watching on YouTube. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And say hi to this cat that's meowing all the time in the background. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.